It's a moment you won't see coming when confidence and knowledge collide with authority, and the results are unforgettable. In this video, we dive into an intense encounter where a couple of determined female cops try to enforce compliance during an ID check, only to face an unexpected First Amendment lesson they weren't prepared for. With calm yet firm responses, the individual at the center of this standoff challenges the officers, standing their ground and refusing to back down. The tension builds as the officers attempt to assert control, but cracks start to show as their demands are countered with clear, well-informed arguments. Each moment raises the stakes, leaving everyone wondering how it will play out. Will the officers adapt, or will they double down on their position? Stay tuned as this gripping clash unfolds, revealing a masterclass in standing up for your rights while keeping your cool. It all began on a quiet afternoon when the officers approached a man standing near a public space, asking for his ID. Their tone was firm, their stance authoritative, but the man's response was unexpected. Calmly he asked, "Am I being detained, or am I free to go?" This simple yet powerful question seemed to catch the officers off guard, setting the tone for what would become a tense back and forth. The officers, confident in their authority, insisted that he provide identification. But instead of complying, the man explained his rights under the First Amendment, pointing out that he was not committing a crime and was under no legal obligation to provide his ID. The officers grew visibly frustrated, doubling down on their demands. Meanwhile, passers-by started to take notice, adding a layer of public scrutiny to the unfolding scene. Each word, each pause, made it clear this wasn't going to end easily. As the exchange continued, the officers became more insistent, their voices firm as they demanded compliance. "If you have nothing to hide, why not just hand over your ID?" one of them asked, attempting to shift the burden of proof. But the man stood firm, reiterating that simply standing in a public space wasn't grounds for being questioned or detained. His calm demeanor was in sharp contrast to the growing impatience of the officers, and that only fueled the tension. Meanwhile, a small crowd began to form, with some bystanders recording the interaction on their phones. Quiet murmurs rippled through the group as people debated whether the officers were overstepping or if the man was pushing his luck. Among the onlookers was a retired lawyer who whispered to those nearby about how critical it was to understand your rights in situations like this. The officers, perhaps aware of the growing audience, started to exchange glances, signaling they were strategizing their next move. But would they escalate, or would the man's unwavering confidence force them to reconsider? The balance of power teetered, and everyone watching could feel that the climax was still building. The officers, now visibly frustrated, decided to change their approach. One of them took a step closer, trying to assert dominance. "Sir, refusing to cooperate only makes things harder for you," she said firmly, her hand resting on her duty belt. But the man didn't flinch. Instead, he calmly replied, "Harder for me or harder for you?" "Because I know the law, and so do you." His words landed like a challenge, causing a ripple of tension to pass through the crowd. The second officer, sensing the growing pressure, chimed in, "We're giving you a chance to do this the easy way. Don't push it." The man stood his ground, his voice unwavering as he asked, "Am I being detained, or am I free to go?" The crowd was completely silent now, the air thick with suspense. Even the bystanders holding phones seemed to lean in closer, waiting for the officer's next move. The officers exchanged a glance, their authority visibly being tested in real time. For a moment, it felt like everything could either escalate or dissolve in an instant. No one could predict what would happen next, and that uncertainty kept everyone on edge. Just as the tension seemed unbearable, the unexpected happened. A voice from the crowd broke the silence, a confident, assertive tone that immediately drew attention. "Officers, I'm an attorney," the man announced, stepping forward slightly. "You're walking a very fine line here. Unless you have reasonable suspicion of a crime, this individual is within his rights to refuse to identify himself." The crowd stirred, their murmurs growing louder, as the officers momentarily froze, clearly not expecting this new dynamic. The lead officer, her posture stiffening, shot back, "We're handling this situation. Step back." But the attorney remained calm, unfazed. "Handling it or escalating it?" he asked, his words cutting through the air like a blade. The man at the center of the encounter glanced at the attorney with a slight nod, their shared understanding further unsettling the officers. One of the officers, clearly feeling the pressure, pulled out her radio and stepped aside, speaking in hushed tones to dispatch. It was a move that only heightened the stakes. Was backup on its way, or were they seeking clarification on the law? The crowd's whispers turned into quiet speculation as everyone watched the officer's every move. The dynamic had shifted yet again, and no one could predict how it would all unfold. As the officer finished her call, she returned with a renewed sense of determination. "Sir, you are creating a disturbance," she stated firmly, though her tone betrayed a hint of uncertainty. But before she could continue, the attorney stepped in once more. "Creating a disturbance. The only disturbance here is the one caused by unlawfully demanding identification," he said, his voice unwavering. The crowd murmured in agreement, and phones captured every moment as the balance of power visibly shifted. Finally, the lead officer took a deep breath, glancing at her partner, who looked equally conflicted. After a long pause, she stepped back, signaling her partner to do the same. "You're free to go," she said reluctantly, her words almost drowned out by the collective gasp from the onlookers. The man stood there for a moment, calm and composed, before thanking the attorney and addressing the crowd. "This is why knowing your rights matters." But just as the crowd began to disperse, the unexpected twist came. Another officer, this time from a higher rank, arrived on the scene. He assessed the situation, his sharp eyes taking in the tension, the cameras, and the retreating officers. "Wait," he called out, stopping the man in his tracks. Everyone held their breath, wondering if this would reignite the confrontation. But instead, the superior officer calmly addressed his team. "We need to review the protocols here. Let's not make this mistake again." It was a surprising turn, an acknowledgement that left the officers flustered and the crowd stunned. As the man walked away, the crowd erupted in quiet applause, not for drama, but for the power of staying informed and standing firm. The lesson was clear. Knowledge is the ultimate equalizer. As the man walked away, he couldn't help but glance back at the scene he was leaving behind. A crowd still buzzing with discussion, cameras still rolling, and officers who had been reminded of the power of accountability. The attorney lingered for a moment, exchanging a knowing nod with the man before also stepping away. It was a moment of quiet victory, not just for one person, but for the principle that rights are meant to be upheld, not ignored. The crowd slowly dispersed, with some individuals still debating what they'd just witnessed. "You don't see that every day," one bystander remarked, shaking their head. Others shared clips of the encounter online, ensuring the message reached far beyond the street where it unfolded. The officers retreated to their vehicles, their demeanor more subdued, no doubt reflecting on how the situation had unraveled. For everyone watching, both in person and through screens, the takeaway was clear. Knowing your rights isn't just a formality. It's a tool to challenge overreach and demand fairness. The man's calm confidence and the attorney's timely intervention served as a powerful reminder that standing firm in the face of pressure can change the course of events. The story ended not with chaos, but with an unshakable sense of purpose, a testament to the strength of accountability and the enduring value of understanding the law.